my favorite president, I don't mind saying, is Teddy. And I harp on,
I know too much now.
Well, because Roosevelt was the only person who truly ever challenged the real people in power.
Right.
He was an accidental president because of McKinley's assassination.
I know.
They really only put him there as a stand because they didn't want him running New York. But the point is, he ended up president. He may have been the most popular president ever in terms of what he accomplished in the 7 years he was there. He challenged Rockefeller. He challenged Carnegie. He was really willing to do what was necessary. And the one thing that happened during his administration that has not been used, as far as I can tell since, is the Sherman Antitrust Act. There are so many grounds to break up these monopolies, like Amazon, for example. Amazon does probably more damage, as much as Walmart, to small business America than anybody else. And no one is challenging them. No one is saying, listen, we have it in the law that you're not allowed to be a monopoly. It's not allowed. And yet they are a monopoly. I don't think anybody would doubt that Walmart and Amazon are monopolies in their form of operation, especially in terms of delivery service. There is Amazon and there's nothing else.
They've eaten up a lot of small businesses.
They really
have.
have.
Just what that's the truth.
And then the other thing that ends up happening, because I know a lot of people on the right they're certainly not pro-union, or they go as far as being anti-union. But one of the things that ends up happening when you monopolize the economy is workers' rights literally go out the window. You don't have any rights. You basically have us, and that's it. And when there's no competition, you don't have anywhere to go to make a better living. So this is where we really do have to find a way to meet in the middle. And as far as I'm concerned, the corporations at the top that basically are screwing us over on the daily, this is, to me, breaking up the monopolies, I think, is something that progressives and libertarians could come together on in regards to supporting small business. Do you see that as a potential meeting ground, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to unpack there.
Sorry, I can go on.
I'll do
that.
So, certainly, again, and I think it goes back to the concept of, what is a free market, free choice, transparency. I'm going to keep saying it again, the guardrails of property rights, and what is forced coercion, control, a few people making decisions, concentrated power. And I am certainly in favor if somebody gets too big where they're completely dominating, I have no problem in addressing that. The issue is, and I'm a very principled person, is how specifically are you defining that? And where is the line, and how do we keep that principle? Because a lot of the discussion points that I've been having and asking people the questions to define what it is, there's a lot of, I know it when I see it, but I can't really define it, and that doesn't work for law. So I think that if we were to come together on something like that, there'd have to be a really clear definition. It's like, at what point is something really a monopoly and truly a competitive threat? And I also think, we like to talk about our rights, and we don't like to talk about our responsibilities at all. And there are a lot of things that you could choose to do outside of Amazon that people don't, because they find value in Amazon. With my book, The War on Small Business, I've been pushing people to buy it at bookshop.org. You can still buy it online. They will still ship it, so you don't even have to walk to your local small business bookseller. But people like Amazon. And so there are a lot of people like, well, yeah, I get it. That would be nice, but I still bought it at Amazon. So there's the piece of, hey, Amazon does the beauty pageant and they go running around for corporate headquarters and they get special tax breaks and favors and things like that. That kind of stuff we should shut down, because we're not controlling that. The government's controlling that. But the stuff that we have control of, I think we need to take a bit of a more active role in terms of capitalism and understanding our role and our responsibility. We can't just demand, well, we have these rights, and these big bad companies, whatnot. So I think that's one issue. I also have an issue in terms of unions. And again, it goes back to the consolidation of power, because in many of the cases, again, it goes back to intentions versus outcomes. The intention, we want, workers to have rights and whatnot, but the intentions end up being outweighed by what's the outcome, and that is that many of these unions get really big. They end up benefiting the people who are, in the little club, and they don't really do a lot for the people that they are, purporting to help. We see that particularly in the teachers unions. And so again, I feel like, again, you can advocate for yourself better than somebody can advocate for you. And I believe in a merit system. And if there's, let's say, for a teacher, a really good teacher, like there should be no cap on the pay that they get, and they shouldn't be beholden to somebody else who's flying around on a private jet and saying, oh, we can't go back to school because, whatever
Gee,
science.
I wonder, Carol, who you might be talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hypothetical example, Randy Weingarten.
Well, I will tell you that of all the unions that are out there, and it's the saddest thing because, teachers are the most, along with nurses, are the two most important professions we have. And unfortunately, Randy Weingarten, who's been running the teachers union for, I guess, about 30 years now or something, she is the definition of what's wrong with collective bargaining and what's wrong with unions in general.
We have a lot of knowledge on these issues.
And this goes back to my thoughts again around, how you look at power structures. And I think if you look at the big business and you look at big government, you look at big unions, and you look at what we're talking about, decentralization. Like if you love small business and you love the idea of decentralization, or if you're a crypto person and you like the idea of a decentralized currency, like that's the antithesis of giving these big entities more power. And I promise you, just like study human nature from all of history and go back to Milton Friedman, who you may or may not like, but like, where are these angels who are going to organize society for us? Like we don't have Mother Teresa's out there. So like, let's solve the same problems that we're talking about. Let's identify the problems, but like, let's maybe just try a potentially different way, or at least kind of talk through like what might be the benefit of doing it in a more decentralized way. Even something like education, even if it's government funded, which isn't like the most kind of like, centrist or fiscally conservative thing. If you didn't have the teachers unions in there and you had the dollars following the students, which we're seeing a lot of, and you had more competition and you were empowered as a family to be able to make those choices. And the same thing on the teacher, like with technology, if you were a great teacher and you could broadcast to 1 million students and make $1 million, like that would be amazing. Like great teachers should do that, and everyone should have access to it. It shouldn't be based on your zip code. You shouldn't have to move to get like access to the greatest teachers. So I think bringing in some of those free market tenants actually makes it for a stronger opportunity for education. And it's something I think that's been made very clear over the last 16 to 17 months, where we saw the disparity in what happened in private schools versus public schools, and even the shift to some homeschooling because of these kind of core issues.
And I do think that that's a very good point, because one of the things that, we supported Bernie, and one of the things that we noticed when he ran, in particular in 2016 against Hillary, is that when it came to the unions that were basically run by the rank and file, the workers made decisions for themselves. What is in the best interest of us? What's going to work for us? Anytime a union had that leverage, they voted for Bernie. Anytime it was a corporate board, not the rank and file, that made a decision in terms of which candidate they were going to get behind, they got behind Hillary every time. So as far as we can see, we're identifying the same problem because we see it the same way. And that's the thing about, what happened between Reitz Priebus and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Reitz Priebus told the GOP establishment, look, the people want Trump. I am not giving them Rubio, Kasich, or Cruz. If the people want Donald Trump, then that's what they're going to get. And I'm not going to screw our party for the sake of corporate special interests, because our voters will revolt. On the other side, Debbie did what she had to do to screw Bernie, give it to Hillary, and they still lost. And so that is something that I think we can universally get behind. And as you can imagine, we're of the, we love Nina Turner, we love Andrew Yang, we love Bernie, we love non-corporate approaches to economic solutions. We love the idea of having, more of a camaraderie, even with people that we disagree with. We are dead set against the cronyism of politics. If you knew what we thought about people like Debbie and Dick Durbin and Nancy Pelosi, and I could go on, it's the same thing that I'm sure a lot of people feel about the Mitch McConnells of the world, the James Inhofes of the world, the people that are hurting progress, because there are a lot of innovative ideas out there. You know, that to me, I think is one of the central focuses that you've seen on the left, this primarying of representatives who are basically, they answer to corporate special interests. They don't answer to their constituents. You could say what you want about, you know, we'll leave AOC out of the discussion, but if you look at a lot of the non-corporate representatives that are on the Democratic side, there's not many of them, but they do answer to their constituents. I'm wondering what your thoughts would be if there was an active rise on the political right to not have to basically push for non-corporate representation and basically fight for the values that you believe in. Because I think if we did see that transpire on the GOP side, we would get to where we need to go a lot faster. Because as far as I can see, that's not really happening right now, but it doesn't mean that it can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much in favor of principles over people or party or politics. You know, there are times when somebody who's, you know, not generally aligned with me says something interesting, and it's like, yeah, you know, that's dead right. And I feel like we need more of that. We need more, you know, you mentioned all of these people that you like they're fine as people, but like I need to go through each of their ideas and we need to kind of talk through the merits of their ideas. And I think unfortunately we have got into this this sort of duopoly. Like, talk about if you want to break up the biggest duopoly that's out there, it's the Republican Democrat, you know, traditional stronghold. I mean, that is the duopoly. I mean, that's the illusion that we have some sort of a choice, and we don't have a lot of a choice. So, you know, from my standpoint, you know, I'd like to focus more on the principles. And I feel like the principles to avoid the same problems of when people get into power, what happens with the cronyism and the special interests and the cash grabs and all that stuff. Again, I would contend that a smaller government approach, which again is not a non-government approach, but just a smaller with more free market principles, really accomplishes that. And so I'm all for like tearing down the whole current, you know, couple party system that we have. And I think it would be super interesting, like you said, if like the progressives and the libertarians, perhaps, and the politically homeless could find, you know, some way. And, you know, again, it's important to listen to constituents, but it's also important to have some reality in terms of perspective of, you know, there are a lot of things that people want that aren't necessarily producing good outcomes, which is why, again, I feel like having the federal government involved in so many things is not sort of the best way to approach that. But again, yeah, I feel like there's some interesting kind of melding that could happen there.
I think that the only way that you're going to be able to really get progressives on board with any idea of free marketplace is that healthcare, education, and corrections need to be taken out of the for-profit sector, because those things are not things that need to be for profit. There's many other things that are for profit that I think is fine. If somebody invents a widget and wants to rip people off for that widget, have at it, man. Fly around in your corporate jet and have gold fixtures. And yes, I was on a corporate jet with gold fixtures because Stephen Hilbert from Conseco back when I lived in Indianapolis, but I digress. So like, I have no problem with that. And progressives, I don't know. I mean, yes, I've been called a communist by people, but I'm not. I have no problem with capitalism. I just believe that those three areas need not be on our for-profit table. I think there's many other ways for people to make a profit. And especially when we're talking about benefiting small businesses, because right now, all three of those things are not helping small businesses. They're only helping big corporations when you're talking about the profit. So yeah, if those things are taken off the profit, you know, field, then yeah, I think that there's a lot of things we could agree on. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.